Did the Toronto Blue Jays just pull off the move that finally puts them over the top, or did they just tie up $210 million in the most volatile ace in baseball? Dylan Cease has agreed to a massive 7-year deal with the Blue Jays, and this contract is already being called everything from a franchise changer to an absolute gamble by fans and analysts. Today, the Show Insider breaks down what this really means for Cease, for Toronto, for the AL East, and for the rest of MLB. But that's not the whole story. From the outside, this looks simple. Big market team pays big money for a big arm. In reality, this is one of the riskiest, highest upside bets any front office has made in years. To understand why, you have to look at who Dylan Cease is, not just on paper, but on the mound inning by inning. The shocking deal. First, the basics. Reports have the Blue Jays and Dylan Cease agreeing to a 7-year contract worth around $210 million, the largest free agent deal in franchise history, and one of the biggest pitching commitments in MLB right now. This contract immediately pushes the Jays deep into big spender territory and sends a clear message. They're not just trying to sneak into the playoffs, they're aiming for a title window right now. Cease was one of the most coveted arms on the market, drawing interest from teams like the Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, and others before Toronto stepped in with the years and money to shut the door. Insiders say the Jays front office had circled Cease for over a year, trying and failing to trade for him before finally landing him in free agency. When you chase a pitcher this long, you're not just paying for what he was, you're betting hard on what he can become. But what exactly are the Jays buying? Who Dylan Cease really is? On his best days, Dylan Cease looks like a cheat code. He's a strikeout machine with multiple seasons of 200-plus punch-outs and some of the highest whiff rates in the sport. In 2022, he finished as the AL Cy Young runner-up with a 2.2 ERA and a pitch mix that made hitters look completely lost. When his slider is biting and his fastball is riding at the top of the zone, he isn't just good, he's unhittable. His stuff is filthy. Mid to upper 90 seconds velocity, a sweeping slider, a curveball that can buckle knees, and a changeup he can turn to when he's locked in. Modern tracking numbers love him. Analysts point to his strikeout rates and whiff metrics as ace-level indicators, even in seasons where his ERA looks ugly. That's exactly the type of profile forward-thinking teams are trying to pay for. Swing and miss dominance that can win postseason games. But then there's the other side. When Cease is off, he walks too many hitters, runs up his pitch counts, and leaves pitches over the plate that get punished, especially by patient lineups in tough divisions. He's had years with an ERA in the mid-4 seconds, leading some critics to argue you're paying ace money for a mid-rotation roller coaster. That's where the debate begins. Why Toronto pushed all in? So why did the Blue Jays decide this was the guy to hand 7 years and $210 million? Simple. They needed a frontline arm, and they believe their window is now. Toronto already had Kevin Gausman at the top of the rotation and solid pieces like Jose Barrios, but they were missing that second true frontline starter who could change a series on his own. After watching other AL powers load up, the Jays couldn't afford to sit back. Adding Cease gives them a 1-2 punch of Gausman and Cease that can match almost any playoff rotation on paper. Behind them, they can roll out arms like Shane Bieber, Barrios, and younger pitchers, depending on how the rest of the offseason shakes out. This is how you build an October-ready rotation. Don't just stack depth, stack ceiling. Insiders also say the Jays believe Cease is one adjustment away from living permanently in his Cy Young form. Whether that's a mechanical tweak, pitch usage change, or simply more consistent game planning, Toronto's pitching infrastructure clearly thinks they can unlock something Chicago and San Diego never fully did. It's a bet not just on the player, but on their coaches and analysts. But this isn't a video about just upside. Let's get to the risks. The risks no one can ignore. The first obvious concern, the AL East. This is not a friendly division for pitchers who struggle with walks and command. You're facing deep, patient, power-heavy lineups in New York, Boston, and Baltimore on repeat. Cease's past numbers against AL East teams aren't exactly comforting, with a history of inflated ERAs and tough outings in those parks. His career has also come with stretches where he simply can't find the zone. When the walks pile up, he doesn't go deep into games, which puts more pressure on the bullpen and increases his volatility as a long-term investment. And that's before you factor in the injury risk that comes with any pitcher you sign for 7 years, especially one who leans heavily on velocity and high-stress breaking pitches. This is what makes the deal so polarizing. For some, Cease is the kind of arm you roll the dice on, because true strikeout aces simply aren't available very often in free agency. For others, tying up $210 million in a pitcher with a career ERA over 4 in multiple seasons feels like an overreach, no matter how nasty the stuff is. So, did the Jays overpay, or did they just beat everyone else to the breakout? How this move changes the Blue Jays window. Step back and look at the big picture. This move isn't just about 2026, it's about the next 5 to 7 years of Blue Jays baseball. In the short term, Cease lines up with Gausman at the top of the rotation, giving Toronto a legitimate chance to go toe-to-toe with the best rotations in the AL in any playoff series. That's crucial in a league where October often comes down to who can send out the nastier starter in games 1 and 2. Long term, Cease becomes the anchor as other contracts roll off. Gausman and other veterans won't be around forever, and the Jays know it. Locking in Cease gives them a centerpiece around which to build the next version of their contention core, one that might feature different faces in the lineup but still needs an ace to lead the staff. There's also a message element here. By stepping up and winning a bidding war for one of the top arms on the market, the Blue Jays are telling their fan base, their own clubhouse, and the rest of MLB, we're in the big game now. That matters when you're trying to sell future stars on staying or coming to Toronto. But no big move happens in a vacuum. This signing sends ripples across the league. Fallout for the Padres and the rest of MLB. For the Padres, losing Cease means saying goodbye to a workhorse strikeout arm they relied on heavily after acquiring him originally. On the flip side, they get financial flexibility and draft compensation, and they can reset parts of their roster and long-term budget. It hurts, but it also might be the reset they needed. For other would-be suitors like the Mets, Yankees, and Dodgers, missing out on Cease means turning to plan B, C, or D. Maybe that means more aggressive trades, pivoting to other free agent starters, or leaning on prospects sooner than planned. Either way, Toronto's move forces everyone else to adjust. It also sets a new bar for the starting pitching market. A 7-year, $210 million deal for a pitcher with Cease's profile gives agents ammo for the next wave of aces looking to get paid. You can bet front offices around the league took note. Best case versus worst case scenarios. So, what does success actually look like here? Best case scenario, Cease tightens his command, the Jays help him lock in a more efficient pitch mix, and he becomes a perennial Cy Young contender in the AL East. In that world, this contract looks like a steal by year 3 or 4, and Toronto ends up with multiple deep playoff runs powered by a dominant rotation. Worst case scenario, the command issues persist, AL East lineups feast on his mistakes, his ERA sits in the 4 seconds, and injuries or inconsistency turn this into a heavy, immovable contract that limits Toronto's flexibility down the line. In that world, this deal becomes the kind of cautionary tale rival fan bases cite every time a pitcher gets paid. Right now, the truth is somewhere in between. This is a classic high-risk, high-reward move. You don't sign Dylan Cease for safety. You sign him because you believe that if he hits, he changes everything. Fan reaction, media takes, and the debate. Reaction has been wild. Toronto media is split between calling this a franchise-defining swing and warning that there's real bust potential here. Stats-heavy analysts praise the move, pointing to Cease's elite strikeout and whiff numbers as signs that ERA doesn't tell the whole story. More old-school voices worry about the walks and the volatility in big games. Fans are just as divided. Some are all in, already editing Cease into ALCS height videos. Others are nervous, asking if this is going to be another long, expensive contract Toronto wishes it could escape in a few years. On social media, you see both. This is the move we needed, right next to $210M for an up-and-down arm. That's crazy. And that's exactly why this is one of the most interesting signings of the entire offseason. What this move really means. At the end of the day, the question isn't just, is Dylan Cease worth $210 million? The real question is, was anyone else going to give the Blue Jays a better shot at winning now and later? Toronto decided the answer was no. They looked at the market, looked at their rotation, looked at their timeline, and chose to bet big on upside, on strikeouts, and on the idea that they can be the team that finally puts all of Cease's tools together in one elite package. Did they just sign the piece that finally takes them from interesting to terrifying in October? Or will we look back on this as the contract that weighed them down when they needed flexibility most? Let the show insider know what you think. Is this smart aggression or a dangerous overpay? Would you have given C 7 years? And where do you rank the Blue Jays rotation now in the American League? If this breakdown kept you locked in, hit like, drop your take in the comments, and subscribe to the Show Insider for more deep dives into the biggest moves, wildest rumors, and most controversial contracts in baseball.